This is crazy. So here's my number. You can call me. Oh, hi there. I was just researching for the newest episode. Are people really becoming more stupid? This is exact question YouTube algorithm wanted me to answer, believing my audience is interested in my take. And no, this should be my first inclination. Just because we're seeing dumb people are wrapping onions on their feed, believing in miracle detox and posting that on TikTok does not necessarily mean that people are really dumber, just that we have more internet. And for some reason, people share that shit all the time. They were some stupid people before, believing in miracles, believing in multiple gods, believing in one god, believing in separate god, killing others because they believe in the first god. Well, actually, that's a bad example. This is still going on. But my deeper research into complexities of human evolution really shocked me. Scientists agree on one thing. Humans, as of recently, are becoming significantly less intelligent. Despite going to space, curing most of diseases, understanding the problems of the future, and living longer than ever, our intellectual capacity is vastly shrinking. But this mystery spans deeper than existence of smartphones in hands of dumb people. For the answers, I need to consult leading scientists, looking at the vast historical data, and consult one of the brightest, Leonardo da Vinci, a man with higher level of innovation and artistic skill than you and me, who lived 500 years ago. Hi, my name is Vladislav Radak. I'm writer and mathematician. This is Fabric of Life, a show where we try to answer humanity's most difficult questions. Let me take you on an adventure.
Hello, Instagram.
What is intelligence? This might sound like a straightforward question with a straightforward answer. The Oxford English Dictionary defines it as capacity to understand. But this definition itself raises increasingly relevant question in the modern world. What happens? The extent to which can precisely apply this capacity is diminishing. Evidence is mounting that something exactly like this has been happening to the human intellect over the past decade or so. But let's go back a bit, to the point where future looked way brighter.
30 years ago, James R. Flynn, a researcher at University of Otago in New Zealand, discovered a phenomenon that social scientists still struggle to explain. IQ scores have been increasing steadily since the beginning of the 20th century. Flynn went on to examine intelligence test data from more than 24 countries and found that scores were rising by 0.3% a year, 3 full points per decade. Nearly 3 decades of follow-up studies have confirmed the statistical reality of the global uptick, now known as the Flynn effect, and the scores were still climbing. To my amazement, in the 21st century, the increases are continuing, says Flynn, whose book on the subject, Are We Getting Smarter?, was published in 2012. The latest data shows that gains in America tracking right along the old rate of 0.3 points a year.
Yeah, right. This is why they picked Trump for president. Like 2 times.
So, the latest results from PISA, no, not the place with the Leaning Tower in Italy, but the big international test, tells us how well 15-year-olds are doing in reading, math and science. And surprise, surprise, the headlines all screamed blame COVID, the pandemic ruined education, etc. Sure, the pandemic didn't exactly help, but here's the awkward bit. Test scores were already sliding downhill long before anyone had heard of social distancing or sourdough starters. In fact, scores actually peaked back in 2012 when, Flynn gave his famous TED Talk. Since then, think less Mount Everest and more slippery playground slide. Between 2012 and 2018, drop was often worse than pandemic years. And it's not just sulky teenagers forgetting Pythagoras' theorem. No, adults are right there with them, showing the same trend in reasoning and problem solving, which is confusing in sort of depressing way, like realizing it's not just the kids who are bad at math, it's their parents too.
Now, here's the kicker. Despite how important attention and brain power are, we done shockingly little considered long-term research on it. There's one quirky exception. Since the 1980s, a survey called Monitoring the Future has asked high school seniors every year whether they have trouble thinking, concentrating, or learning new things. For decades, the number barely budged, but in mid-2010s, it shockingly shot up like teenagers' TikTok screen time graph. So yeah, it's not only COVID. It looks like our collective attention span has been in decline for decades, which might explain why you already opened 3 tabs while I was talking to you.
This inflection point is noteworthy not because being similar to performance on tests of intelligence and reasoning, but because it coincides with another broader development, our changing relationship with information available constantly online. Part of what we're looking at here is likely to be a result of ongoing transition away from text and toward visual media, the shift towards a post-literate society spent obsessively on our screens. The decline of reading is certainly real. In 2022, the share of Americans who reported reading a book in past year fell below half.
We appear to be looking less at the decline of reading per se, and more at the broader erosion in human capacity for mental focus and application. Most of discussion about social impact of digital media focuses on the rise of smartphones and social media. But the change in human capacity for focused thoughts coincides with something more fundamental, in shift in our relationship with information. We have moved from finite web pages to infinite, consistently reshaping feeds and a constant barrage of notifications. We no longer spend much time effectively browsing the web and interacting with people we know, and instead we're presented with a torrent of content. This represents a move from self-directed behavior to passive consumption and constant context switching. So you're probably going to ask me now, what is the solution? How we can get rid of this rot and regain ability that human evolution gave us? But we decided to throw it away the moment we embraced small screens in our palms. Well, I have a perfect solution for you. A couple of years ago, I was working on a documentary about one of the greatest inventors, scientists, and artists in human history, a goat of Renaissance, sort of speaking, Leonardo da Vinci.
Leonardo's main trick was curiosity, and not normal curiosity like why the sky is blue, I mean weaponized one. He wanted to know how water swirled, how birds flapped, how muscles are pulled, how moon reflected the light, and instead of stopping at this question, he went full detective mode with sketches, notes, and enough diagrams to crash a modern printer. Another trick? He didn't just study different subjects, he blended them. Anatomy met art, geometry dated architecture, and physics. He had a fling with painting. Basically, his brain was like Renaissance version of Avengers. Everyone from math to biology showed up, and together they made Mona Lisa smirk. And of course, Leonardo kept insane notebooks.
He was exceptional in his broad to-do lists. I wrote some of my favorites down. He said in his notes, the measurement of Milan and all of its suburbs, or find the master of arithmetic to show you how to square a triangle. Ask Benedetto Protorini what is the feeling of walking on ice in Flanders. Some of them are a little bit strange. Here it says, describe the tongue of a woodpecker. And some of them are purely weird. Go every Saturday to the hot bath where you will find naked men. Or inflate the lungs of the pig to see whether they increase in width and length or only in width.
Yeah, Leonardo's cognitive hacks weren't some magical elixir. They were just ruthless curiosity, mixing ideas across disciplines and documenting everything like a man was possessed. Basically, he turned his brain into Renaissance's most chaotic but effective search engine.
And for the rest of us, it is really quite clear that although humanity is getting way dumber, not everything is lost. It is quite clear that new technology is erasing our cognitive ability. So less screens, more books, more pen and paper, more math, more physics, and more great art. And maybe, just maybe, we have a chance.